Black janitor saved the Korean mafia boss from a stalker. He didn't know she was a former elite soldier. Chapter 1. The Man in the Gray Covrlls. The setup: Invisible Kings. Park Jin-ho did not look like a king tonight. He sat on a cold plastic chair in the lobby of the Alderton Grand Hotel, Seoul's most expensive address east of Gangnam. The marble floors gleamed white. Chandeliers dripped gold light from every ceiling panel. Men in $5,000 suits swept past him without a glance. Jin-ho wore a dark navy hoodie, old sneakers. His watch was a cheap digital one, the kind sold in convenience stores for 12,000 won. He had chosen this deliberately. Tonight, he was not the chairman of the Jumryong organization, the most feared criminal syndicate in South Korea. Tonight, he was just a tired man waiting for a meeting that was already running 30 minutes late. He had learned long ago that the safest version of himself was the invisible one. A laugh caught his attention, loud, unguarded. It came from a woman in a red dress near the elevator bank, speaking at volume to two associates about a competitor's failure. She caught Jin-ho's eye for exactly half a second and looked away just as fast. Dismissed, categorized, forgotten. He exhaled slowly through his nose. That was fine. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through nothing. The lobby music was soft jazz. Someone dropped a glass near the bar and apologized in 3 languages. Jin-ho watched the revolving door, calm as still water. That was when he first saw her. She entered through the service entrance beside the main lobby, the door that guests were never supposed to use. She wore gray coveralls with the hotel insignia stitched on the left chest. Her hair was pulled back tight. She was tall for a woman, broad at the shoulders, with the kind of stillness in her posture that military men recognized in each other but rarely admitted. She was pushing a maintenance cart, mops, cleaning solution, folded trash bags. She moved through the lobby like she owned it, not with arrogance but with pure efficiency. Clean path, minimal contact, zero wasted motion. She cleared an overflowing trash bin near the sitting area, exchanged a brief nod with the concierge, and disappeared around a corner. Jin-ho stared at the space where she had been. Something about her posture stayed with him. The angle of her spine. The way her eyes had swept the entire lobby without stopping on anything long enough to seem obvious. Tactical scan. He filed that observation away, said nothing. His contact was finally emerging from the elevator, phone pressed to his ear, waving an apology. Jin-ho stood, straightened his hoodie, and became invisible again. Chapter 2. The name they don't say out loud. The innocence pivot, who she really is. Her name was Marcus. Not Marcus like a mistake, Marcus like her grandmother, like the woman who raised her in a 2-bedroom apartment in East Baltimore with nothing but scripture and stubbornness. Marcus Adiz Webb, 29 years old, veteran. Honorably discharged from a special operations unit, she was still legally prohibited from nomming in full. She had been cleaning this hotel for 4 months. It was not the life she had imagined after 3 tours, but life after service was its own kind of mission, quiet, grinding, with no medals at the end. The pay was steady. The hours were predictable. She was good at being unseen, and this job rewarded that. She had noticed the man in the hoodie immediately. 3rd floor lobby, near the east sitting area. Navy hoodie, digital watch, posture that said nothing but meant everything. He had not fidgeted, had not pulled at his collar or glanced at the time more than twice. His eyes had done a slow, passive scan of the exits when he first sat down, the kind of scan that looked like boredom but wasn't. She had filed him mentally under, trained, or experienced, possibly both. She had moved on. Now it was 10:47 p.m., and she was finishing the east corridor on the 3rd floor, spraying the glass panel beside room 311, when her instincts spiked. Not a sound, not a movement, just a change in pressure, the subtle way a hallway feels different when someone is trying very hard not to be there. She looked up. A woman stood at the far end of the corridor. She was wearing civilian clothes, a gray blazer, dark trousers, flat shoes. She had a laminated lanyard around her neck that looked like a hotel staff badge from a distance. But Marcus had memorized every face in the staff directory her first week on the job. This woman was not on it. The woman was watching door 309. Not checking in, not waiting to knock, just watching. Her right hand hung loose at her side, but her body weight was shifted slightly forward, toward the balls of her feet. Ready. Marcus kept cleaning the glass, slow, methodical, but her eyes tracked every micro-movement. She recognized the stance. She had worn it herself on 3 continents. This woman was not a guest. Marcus reached for her radio and pressed the alert channel with her thumb. Quiet. One single click, the code the security team used for possible threat, non-emergency monitor. Then she kept cleaning. Because the best thing to do in the next 30 seconds was nothing that looked like something. Chapter 3. The knock that should not have happened. The confrontation, the silent shield. Room 309 belonged to Park Jin-ho. He had checked in under a company name. No photograph on the booking, no loyalty card. The reservation had been made through a third party, paid in advance. He had done everything right. But someone had still found him. He heard the knock at 10:53. 3 short raps, not the housekeeper's pattern she had already come and gone, not his associates they always called first. Jin-ho set down his glass of water and crossed to the door without making a sound. He looked through the peephole. A woman, gray blazer, hotel lanyard. He did not recognize her. But he recognized the angle of her body. The tight control of her breathing, he could see it in the minimal rise and fall of her chest. She was performing calm, which meant she was not calm. He stepped back from the door. His phone was on the bed. His security team was 12 minutes away. He had deliberately not brought close protection tonight. The meeting was supposed to be clean, low profile, completely routine. He had made an error. Before he could reach his phone, the door opened. Not kicked in, not broken. The lock disengaged smoothly, the way it did with a staff override key or a copied card. The woman stepped through, pulling the door shut behind her. Her eyes found him across the room in half a second. "Jin-ho," she said. Her voice was flat, quiet, like she was returning a borrowed item. "You shouldn't have taken what you took." He held himself very still. She reached into her blazer. The door behind her opened. Marcus stood in the frame with a master key card in one hand and a mop handle held lengthwise in the other. She had not run. She had not shouted. She had simply moved fast, without sound. From the corridor she had already quietly cleared of camera coverage during her maintenance sweep. She was between the woman and Jin-ho before the woman finished turning. "Hotel security is already on this floor," Marcus said, calm, no elevation in her voice. "You have about 40 seconds to make a good decision." The woman's hand came out of her blazer, empty. She was calculating. Marcus could see it in her eyes, the rapid assessment, the recalibration, the shift from offensive to contingency. Then she moved. Fast, left hand open palm, aimed at Marcus's throat. Marcus stepped inside the strike, redirected the wrist with her left hand, and put the woman on the floor in a controlled takedown that made almost no noise. Knee at the small of the back, wrist locked at the shoulder joint. "Stay," Marcus said. The woman stayed. Chapter 4. The silence after. The reveal, composure is its own power. The hotel security team arrived in 4 minutes. Jin-ho had finally reached his phone and called his own people, while Marcus held the woman down with the practiced patience of someone who had done this in conditions far worse than a carpeted hotel corridor. The woman, the stalker, was removed without incident. Jin-ho's team swept the floor. They checked the corridor cameras and found a 40-second gap in the footage, consistent with a signal jammer small enough to fit inside a blazer pocket. The stalker had been thorough, professional-grade equipment, personal grievance paired with trained execution. Someone who knew what they were doing. After the room was cleared, Jin-ho's head of security stepped out to make calls. Jin-ho and Marcus were left alone in room 309. She was already cleaning up the minor disarray, door frame, the slight scuff on the carpet from the takedown. "You can stop," he said. She looked up. "That's not necessary," he added. She considered him for a moment. Then she set the mop handle against the wall and straightened. "Is there anything else you need, sir?" she said. He stared at her. "You just put a trained operative on the floor of a hotel corridor without making enough noise to wake a light sleeper," he said. "And now you're asking if I need anything." She said nothing. "Who are you?" he asked. "Marcus Webb, third floor maintenance, East Wing." "That's not what I asked." She met his gaze. In 14 years of running an organization that rewarded composure above all else, he had met very few people who could hold his eye like that. Not with aggression, not with performance, just with presence. "It's all I'm telling you tonight," she said quietly. He almost smiled. "Fair," he said. Chapter 5. The things they find out. The power reveal files don't lie. Jin-ho did not sleep. He sat in the chair by the window and watched the city lights scroll their reflections across the Han River until the sky started to pale at the edges. His team had confirmed the stalker's identity by 2 in the morning, a former associate of a rival faction, carrying a personal grievance and the skill set to act on it. She had tracked him through a clerical error in the third-party booking system, a single logged IP address that his people had missed. The error would be corrected. The rival faction would hear about it. But his mind kept returning to room 309, to the door that had opened without sound, to the woman who had moved like water finding the fastest downhill path, no resistance, no wasted force, pure function. He had his people run Marcus Adiz, Webb, by 3 in the morning. What came back made him set his phone down very slowly. United States Army. Special Forces support attached to a classified unit. 3 deployments across 2 continents. Awards and commendations he was not cleared to know the full details of. Honorably discharged following an injury her file did not describe in specific terms. No criminal record. No outstanding debts. No affiliations. 4 months of employment at the Alderton Grand Hotel, Seoul. She was 29 years old, and she was cleaning corridors at 11 o'clock at night. He did not find this strange. He found it deeply familiar. The best people he had ever known in his life were the ones who had chosen to become invisible after years of being called upon. The ones who had looked at the world of power and decided they preferred to live quietly at the edge of it. He respected that. He also made a note. Outside his window, Seoul was still moving, taxis, delivery bikes, the low, steady pulse of a city that never fully stopped. He watched it without seeing it. He was already thinking about what he would say to her. Chapter 6. The return of the threat. The escalation, the second wave. 3 days passed. Marcus moved through her shifts with the same economy of motion. She heard nothing further about the incident in 309. The hotel management had been given a vague security explanation, and no further questions had been asked. She did not ask any questions either. She had long ago learned that the quieter you stayed, the less you owed. On the 4th day, she was finishing the second-floor stairwell when she heard footsteps that did not fit the pattern. Uneven, deliberately uneven, the kind of gait that someone uses when they don't want their rhythm tracked. She pressed flat against the wall behind the door and waited. A man in a delivery uniform descended the stairs, moving past the landing without looking left. He had a small package tucked under one arm, but his hands were wrong, tense at the knuckles, not relaxed the way a courier's would be after a full shift. His eyes moved in short, systematic arcs. He was heading for the east wing, toward the room that Jin-ho was still occupying quietly without having checked out. Marcus didn't hesitate. She moved up behind him as he rounded the corner, stepped into his peripheral vision at exactly the moment she was close enough that surprise would matter, and said, "Delivery entrance is on the ground floor." He stopped, turned slowly. They looked at each other. He was good. She could see him calculating the angle, the distance, the cost-benefit of the next 3 seconds. She had already calculated all of it twice. "Basement," she said again. "Ground floor, turn around." He went. She watched him all the way to the stairwell door, then radioed the same quiet alert as before, 1 click, east corridor, 2nd floor, and went back to cleaning the stairwell. She did not mention it to anyone else, but she updated her mental map of every entry point in the building, and she started keeping a different kind of notes. Chapter 7. The Offer. The Recognition, Power Seeing Power. Jin-ho appeared in the corridor at the end of her shift. Not his people, not a message passed through the front desk. Him, in a dark jacket and the same cheap digital watch, leaning against the wall near the service elevator like a man who had been waiting for a bus and was in no particular hurry. Marcus stopped her cart. "Mr. Park," she said, because she had looked him up too, the day after room 309, from a publicly available business registry that listed a subsidiary company under his real name. She had cross-referenced it against 3 other sources. She was thorough. He tilted his head slightly, acknowledged. "You turned away another one," he said, not a question. "Delivery uniform, wrong hands," he left. Jin-ho nodded. His expression was careful, the kind of careful that comes from long practice at keeping feeling off a face. "I'd like to offer you a position," he said. She looked at him. "Not what you're thinking," he said. "Personal security coordination. Legitimate contracted work, fully disclosed, fully compensated. You'd design the protocols. You'd set the parameters." She was quiet for a long moment. "I like this job," she said. "I believe you," he said. He paused. "I'm not asking you to leave it. I'm asking you to consider an addition." She studied him the way she studied everything, with the part of her mind that classified threats and the part that, more rarely, recognized something other than threats, something honest. "You ran my file," she said. "Yes." "And you still think this is a reasonable offer?" "Because of what I found," he said quietly, "not in spite of it." She looked at him for 3 more seconds. "I'll think about it," she said. She pushed her cart toward the elevator. He did not follow. At the elevator doors, she paused without turning around. "The woman from 309, she said. "Was she working alone?" A short silence. "We don't believe so," he said. She nodded once. "Then you need better perimeter protocols," she said. "Not just better guards." The elevator opened. She stepped in. The doors closed between them. Chapter 8. What remains when the smoke clears? The resolution. She was always moving towards something. She thought about it for 2 days. She thought about it while scrubbing grout in the 4th-floor bathroom suite, while riding the bus home through streets still wet from late autumn rain, while sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold beside her and the city noise soft and gray outside her window. She thought about why she had left, about what she had given 3 deployments to protect, and what it had cost her to come home and find that none of it was waiting, not the stability, not the belonging, not the sense of moving toward something real. She thought about what it meant to be very good at something that the world would rather not acknowledge. And she thought about a man who had sat in a hotel lobby in a $20 hoodie and a convenience store watch, choosing to be invisible because he understood that the most powerful position was the one no one was looking for. She recognized something in that. On the 3rd morning, She sent a single message to the contact number Jin-ho had left on a playing card, slipped under her locker room door. It said, "One condition. I report to no one but you, and I walk if the work crosses my line." The reply came in 40 seconds. "Agreed, the line is yours to draw." She set her phone down, finished her coffee. Then she picked up her maintenance cart and went back to work, because her shift started in 11 minutes and she had never once been late. She did not know what would come next, whether it would be another stalker, another corridor, another moment where the only thing standing between harm and the person beside her was her own body and the training she had tried so hard to leave behind. But she had always been better at moving towards something than away from it. And Park Jin-ho, chairman of the Jumryong organization, feared king of the Korean underworld. He had looked at her entire file, at every classified commendation and redacted mission and quiet civilian year she had collected since leaving the service, and had said, "Because of what I found. Not in spite of it." She pushed the cart to the elevator and pressed the button for the 3rd floor. The city kept moving below her, indifferent and alive. She moved with it.